While we're talking football, though, let's move to Horsham, and the dream of a new home for Horsham Football Club is facing fierce opposition from potential new neighbours. So this is after years of homelessness. The non-league side is thought to be close to putting in a planning application for a new stadium on land south of the town near the Hop Oast roundabout. You may remember the saga of this. The club moved out of Queen Street, where they'd been for more than 100 years, back in 2008. They've been looking for a permanent replacement since. They had planning permission for a new ground, refused in 2008. Then they played a year in Worthing. They've been ground sharing at Horsham YMCA for the past 4 years. So they're looking for a new home, but people in the nearby historic Dean Park House estate aren't impressed by the idea. And Richard Duncan has lived there for 25 years and joins us now. Hello, Richard.
Good morning.
Why don't you want football club as your neighbours?
Well, very simply, this is an old historic site. It goes back until the early 17th century. It's a beautiful place in terms of trees and ecology, quiet sort of lifestyle and so on. And we're not in any way against the football club or any way against football. We just think this is totally the wrong place to put it.
Yes. I've kind of heard that argument with all sorts of planning before. We just don't want it here. We know they need a football stadium, but just not here. I mean, much the same happened, of course, when Brighton & Hove Albion were looking for a stadium. Go on, give me your killer reason why it shouldn't be where you are.
Well, because, two reasons, I hope.
All right.
The first one, I hope, is that there are sufficient other alternatives that are much closer to the ideal location for a football club, with good access, good roads, lots of parking, and also, frankly, access to the customers who are most likely to want to come here. The second reason is back to my ecological and historical one, that this place has been around literally hundreds of years. The ground they want to use has been used until very recent. It's presently a piece of a golf course, but before that it was arable land as part of the estate of Den Park, as it's called. And it just seems a nonsense from our point of view. And I must say there are lots of other people. It isn't just people living in this immediate backyard. In 2002, you didn't mention that. This was the first time they tried to come here. They were seen off, and there were many people writing in from other parts of the region, including downtown Horsham, who stressed that surely there is a far better place. We've got to find a better place. Let's go and look for it.
Yeah.
So I don't think they've been looking very hard.
Well, it's interesting that, I mean, obviously when you do a subject like this, you get people on both sides of the argument,
Sure.
and they claim the majority on them. You know, I've got someone who's tweeted, most people are for the ground, and someone say this is just a few NIMBYs. This is going to be a community stadium. It will benefit the district as a whole. What do you think, Richard?
Well, clearly, I don't agree.
Right, okay, fair enough. Well, Richard, I tell you what we'll do. We'll talk to the club in the next hour of the programme and say why they think that Den Park is the right idea, and we'll put some of your points to them there. 14 minutes to 8 here at BBC Sussex.
Proposals for a new stadium for Horsham Football Club are being met with opposition. The non-league side is thought to be close to putting in a planning application for land near the Hop Oast roundabout. But it's caused anger from some residents who say they have more supporters than the club does. Richard Duncan is leading the campaign against the ground.
I have to tell you, there are a large number of very committed people around here who spend a lot of their time and their own money, and we aren't a bunch of multimillionaires. We might be considered NIMBY, but I would not accept that. Having been here as long as I have, I know what this place is about. I know what it does for Horsham.
Right, 8:26 at BBC Sussex. The dream of a new home for Horsham Football Club is facing fierce opposition from its potential new neighbours. This is after years of homelessness. The non-league side at Horsham's thought to be close to putting in a planning application for a new stadium at land south of the town near the Hop Oast roundabout. And the club moved out of their old Queen Street home for 100 years back in 2008. They had planning permission for a new ground, refused in 2008. They played a year in Worthing. They've been ground sharing at Horsham YMCA for the past 4 years, but some people living nearby that new potential place, Den Park housing estate, they aren't impressed by the idea. And earlier we spoke to Richard Duncan, who's lived there for 25 years.
We're not against the Horsham Football Club. We're certainly not against football. We're just against this area as being at all appropriate for them. I mean, this whole estate, the main part of that, original part of that house was built in 1604. This whole land is old, and as they say in the planning business, very sustainable. Our predecessors, 300-400 years ago, were no fools. Mm-hmm. They knew how to build and how to arrange their estate. The water, or the rainwater that drops down on that big house there, ends up right next door to where the football club wants to come and put a football pitch, etc.
Fair bit of reaction to this morning. Jonathan says something like a sports stadium should be further out. All the floodlights, the people, the noise, that sort of stuff. It shouldn't be near people's homes. So in this particular case, he says, I'm with the NIMBYs! ! Cameron says most people are actually for the ground. I hope you treat this in an unbiased way on the radio this morning. Mark says, I wouldn't say it's fierce opposition, Neil. There are some NIMBYs, but most people I speak to are in favour. It's a community ground. Let's talk to the chairman of Horsham Football Club, Kevin Borrant. Hello, Kevin.
Morning, Neil.
Right, okay, this has been a long journey for you, hasn't it, so far? Nearly a decade it'll be without a permanent home. And what does that actually do to the football club?
It's presented, obviously, a number of challenges for us. We've had to cut our cloth accordingly. But I think one of the things we have done, Neil, is try to look for the most appropriate site for us to place our new football ground. And we very much believe doing so in the Hop Oast area and using a redundant part of an old golf course, which means continued leisure land use is the most appropriate location.
Right, okay, but I mean, you did hear from the chap. He says there are many people at Den Park House Estate that would be very much against it. They say they're not NIMBYs, they don't mind a ground, but somewhere else in Horsham would be more appropriate.
Well, we're very happy to put the case for why we think Hop Oast is the right location. We're in the middle of public consultations at the moment. Those took place over several evenings last week. That continues this week. And in fact, the residents of Den House and the residents of Salisbury Road, which are the two areas of housing which are closest to the ground, albeit that they are quite a way away, have both been invited to consultation evenings. In fact, Den House have been invited this evening. So I guess I'm a little bit disappointed that Mr. Duncan hasn't taken the opportunity to actually look at our plans in detail this evening before coming on the radio. But we're very confident that we can reassure local residents that what we're proposing is proportionate. It is a football ground. It's not a stadium. It's two football pitches to support under 14, under 15, under 16, under 18 and senior teams.
Right, okay, but there will be there'll be comings and goings, won't there? And there'll be, I suppose, a degree of noise and traffic. I mean, that's almost inevitable with a football club, however big their status is.
You're absolutely right. Obviously, we hadn't played from mid-December until last week. Last week's midweek game for the first team attracted a crowd of about 100. And Saturday's game just over 200. And when you think that those people arrive over an hour's period and leave over a fairly similar period because people will stay and have a drink after the game, it isn't an intense amount of traffic. One thing I do want to point out to your listeners is that the crowd who come and watch Horsham Football Club are mainly ex-football players for Horsham themselves, members of family watching other members of the family play. So it's very much a community football club and community atmosphere. And the facilities that we're looking to provide will not be just for the exclusive use of Horsham Football Club. There is a desperate need for additional football pitches in the Horsham district, and Horsham Football Club is keen to play its part in helping to provide those.
Okay, Kev, thanks very much indeed. We'll follow that application with interest. It's 8:31 here at BBC Sussex.